Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Diana Nur Afifah from Department of Nutrition Science, Faculty of Medicine, Universitas Diponegoro. On this occasion, I will present the topic of developing formula food for children. What I will discuss today is more about the research that I have done together with my research team. There are three sections in this presentation. First, an overview, climate change and its impact in coastal areas. Second, problem-related health and nutrition, how climate change have negative impacts in all dimensions. And the third, developing formula food, especially for children using local food. Climate change has caused more frequent climate-related natural disasters that threaten to increase vulnerable peoples in food security. It negatively impacts on all aspects of food security, including malnutrition, especially people in coastal areas. The effect of rising sea levels along most of the continental Indonesian coastline are expected to become more noticeable and projected at sea level increase, as high as 0.30 until 0.65 meters in 2100 and 0.54 until 2.15 meters in 2300. Acceleration of in-sea level rise that is predicted will have a greater impact and intensively high tidal flood impacts over time. Demak is a coastal area in central Java that has many problems related with climate change. Land subsidence in the coastal area of Demak reach 0.06 until 1.15 meters per year, caused by excessive exploration of groundwater by the surrounding industry. Well, what is high tidal flood or ROC in Javanese language? This is a flooding which causes public inconveniences such as road closure, is increasingly common as coastal sea levels rise. The impact of high tidal flood is frequent road closures, overwhelmed storm drains, and deterioration of infrastructure such as road and rail. Why is this can happen? Tidal flood or ROC is increasing due to climate change related sea level rise. Land subsidence combined with loss of natural coastal barriers, decrease in forest area, land degradation, loss of mangrove ecosystem, over exploration of groundwater, improper drainage, and high tide. Yeah, this is ROC, or tidal flood in Demak. Adapted from McMichael et al. 2006, climate change negatively impacts all dimensions. And this is an example of environmental effects like a change in extreme weather, ecosystems effect, rising sea levels, environmental degradation. And for agricultural and food effects like changing livestock, fisheries, and crop yields and distribution. This is very related to the food insecurity. And for health effects like a changing incidence of infections and non-infectious disease and malnutrition, of course. And for the social effects like a displacement, migration, conflicts, and population growth. And the end is economic effects like an economic productivity, lost jobs, agricultural failure, family hunger, and loss of livelihoods. Adapted from Pats et al. 2000 that climate change have effect on the regional weather change, and of course it would be impact on the health like temperature related illness and death, extreme weather related health effects, air pollution related borne diseases, effect of food and water shortage, and until mental effect. According to the Global Nutrition Report 2018, every country has malnutrition problems irrespective of wealth, and 88% of countries experience more than one type of malnutrition burden. Example, in Indonesia, the color is orange and dark orange. So in Indonesia, at least a double burden, or in some areas is have a triple burden malnutrition. Food insecurity has a double impact on the nutritional status of under 5s in Indonesia. Some of them suffer from malnutrition, and on the other hand, the number of under 5s suffering from excess nutrition also increases. Food security exists when all people at all times have physical, social, and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food to meet their dietary needs and food preferences for an active and healthy life. There are four pillars of food security. First is food availability, second, food access, third, food utilization, and the fourth is food stability. This is a framework mapping the impact of climate change on nutrition outcomes through key equity dimensions. Climate change poses a growing threat to the achievement of optimal nutrition status, both directly through affecting food production and indirectly through altering social and economic influences in people's lives. In recent years, evidence and projections of climate change impacts on food and nutrition security have increased significantly. Before we continue to the developing formula food section, I will present our previous research granted by Universitas Diponegoro for 2018 until 2020. Based on the data of nutrition status assessment in 2016 shows that as many as 27.5% of Indonesian children under 5 had stunted, and 18.8% were underweight, and 11.1% were wasted. According to the WFP, climate change can cause disasters which can affect food availability or accessibility at the regional and household levels. The ease of obtaining food or accessibility at the regional and household levels and can affect food consumption per individual. If the availability and ease of getting food is disrupted, consumption will be low and can lead to malnutrition. And the problem of prolonged malnutrition, one of which will result in a stunting or short generation. Stunting children do not only affect their physical appearance but also their intelligence. Climate change have negative impact on all aspects of food security, including malnutrition. And especially people in coastal area. Demak is a coastal area in Central Java that have many problems. And in this area, there are three types of area: dry area, flooding area, and tidal flooding area. So this is 3 years research, and the objective of this research was to identify food insecurity and children malnutrition in Demak based on the three types of area. And this is the research roadmap. So we hope that in 2021, so in the coastal area, especially in Demak, will secure for their food. And for the first year result has been presented in the international conference and already published in the International Journal of Climate Change, Impacts and Response. For the first year, we try to identify the increase in the air temperature of the north coast of Central Java, because this is an indicator of climate change. We use data from Semarang Station Climatology. This is the data series from 1970 until 2017. And for the second year, so we done a cross-sectional study, and we have 210 subjects and divided into three areas: in the dry area, flooding area, and the tidal flooding area. And we focus on the Sayung district, this is the map. And in Sayung district, there are 20 villages, yeah, and we use all villages, yeah, to collect data. And we divide it into three areas: tidal flooding area, dry area, and flooding area. The long dry season that occurred in the Demak area has caused considerable damage as well as losses. The peak of dry season occurs between June until October. Drought due to the long dry season caused a lot of puso land and difficulties in accessing clean water. Yeah, like this one. This is a dry area in the Demak. At least there are 7 villages affected by seasonal flooding between December until March in Sayung sub-district, namely Kalisari, Sayung, Prampelan, Dombo, Karangasem, Tambak Roto, and Pilangsari villages. Yeah, this is the picture of the flooding area. The Dombo River is experiencing high sedimentation, which is no longer able to hold water, so that it overflows, causing flooded agricultural land, housing, and schools. At least there are 3 villages, namely Sidorejo, Banjarsari, and Purwosari, with the elevation of the tidal inundation can reach 0.9 meters to 1 meter in areas directly adjacent to the coast. Meanwhile, in residential areas, the height of the tidal inundation range from 20 centimeters to 80 centimeters. Yeah, maybe we can see this video. Yeah, this is that when our team tried to get into the tidal flood area.
Kita sebenarnya toh, woi.
So
Oke, akan gue stop.
the community built bamboo, yeah, to adapt this situation. Yeah, a cross-sectional study was conducted to 210 children aged 2 until 5 years old in 3 types of area. With each of them, 70 subjects were selected by simple random sampling. Data was collected with interview technique followed by anthropometric measurement by door-to-door survey. Height was measured by stadiometer and weight was measured using calibrated digital weight scale. To assess the nutritional status of children, Z-score of weight for age, height for age, and weight for age was calculated using WHO growth reference standards, separated for boys and girls. Degree of food security was obtained using household food security survey module questionnaire. Data were analyzed using ANOVA and cross-Wallis test. This is the detail of the research instruments. And for the result of the 210 children, we found that 20% of the children were underweight and 27.5% stunted and 9.5% wasted. The prevalence of underweight based on weight for age and wasting based on weight for height was highest in dry area, while prevalence of stunting was highest in the flooding area. An anthropometric indicator that can describe chronic food insecurity is height for age ratio, in which height for age can describe stunting condition that illustrates shortages or inadequate consumption intake for a long time. This graph shows the trend in prevalence for underweight, stunting, and wasting across the 3 areas. The highest prevalence of underweight and wasting in dry area up to 24.4% and 12.9% compared with the other areas. The prevalence of stunting mostly high. This table shows the distribution of mean difference of the anthropometry index in each areas. There were significant differences in weight for age and weight for height across the 2 areas, rough area and dry area. And this is a summary of frequencies, 3 types scoring from Household Food Security Survey Module questionnaire of the subjects. More of them are secure. Household food security is defined as the ability of households to meet the adequacy of their members' food from time to time in order to live healthy and able to perform daily activities. Food insecurity can be illustrated by changes in food consumption that lead to the thinking of quantity and quality, including changes in the frequency of staple food consumption. The mean of children food security score in dry area, flooding area, and tidal flooding area were 1.11, 0.30, and 0.98 respectively, while the mean of household food security score were 3.98, 1.50 and 2.27 respectively. The dry area was the most food insecure area compared to others. There was a significant difference of child and household security score between three types of area. So, this is the result of micronutrient intake according 24-hour dietary records. And for the ROP area, the micronutrient intakes macronutrient intake is higher than other area. And also for the micronutrient intake, so the ROP area is higher than dry area and flat area. This is conclusion of our study, 3-year study. There were significant differences in degree of food insecurity and children nutritional status between three types of area in Denmark. The prevalence of child stunting was 27.1% and 24% underweight. That score was still high. These results confirm the widely observed relationship between household food security and child stunting. Hence, next program start with adaptation based on three types of area and is consecutively followed by coordination with health authorities for the population interventions and the follow-ups. Well, we entered to the third section, developing a formula food, especially for children. The average energy requirement is the amount of food energy needed to balance energy expenditure in order to maintain body weight, body composition and levels of necessary and desirable physical activity consistent with the long-term good health. It includes the energy needed for the optimal growth and development of children, for the deposition of tissues during pregnancy, and for the secretion of meat during lactation, consistent with the good health of the mother and child. One of the efforts that can be done to reduce the nutritional problems in children is the additional food provision from a local food. The recommended level of dietary energy intake for a population group is the mean energy requirement of the healthy and well-nourished. And this is one of our study. We try to make a formulation of a complementary feeding biscuits with yellowfin fish flour and terbuk flour to improve nutritional status of children in Papua. So we move to the Papua island, yeah, not in Java. WHO stated that first, exclusive breastfeeding without food and other drinks should be given to infant immediately after birth until 6 months of age. And second, provide complementary feeding to infants from 6 months to 2 years. And third is continuation of breastfeeding until the children are 2 years or older. And fourth is the recommendation also stated that the complementary feeding shall be made from local food of cheaper cost and abundant. And the result of Our research, the recommended serving size of complementary feeding biscuit with yellowfin fish flour and turbot flour was 45 grams or 4 pieces of biscuit needed to fulfill the required 30% of children's protein per day. And this is the other research that we try to analyze the iron, calcium, and zinc in formulated fish protein hydrolysate complementary feeding instant powder. So in this research, we not make biscuit, but we make complementary feeding instant powder. From the analysis, F3 had the highest Fa content and the zinc content, while Formula 1 had the highest calcium content. Overall, Formula 3 had the best mineral content to be formulated as a suitable fish protein hydrolysate complementary feeding instant powder. And for the complementary feeding instant powder, we also analyze the albumin level. So we make an experimental research. So we make an intervention to the Sprague-Dawley rat. And the research shows that there were significant differences in the rate of albumin levels. The complementary feeding formula with the highest albumin levels is T2 or Formula 2. And we try to make another complementary feeding. We make cookies from mangrove fruit and soybean. There are 3 formula and 1 formula for control. And this research, this study aimed to determine the nutritional content, including the analysis of energy, carbohydrate, protein, fat, moisture, and S content, and also crude fiber, zinc, iron, calcium, and other mineral content. Apart from that, an anti-nutritional substances test was also carried out against for the HCN and the tannin content to ensure food safety. So the best formula of mangrove and soybean cookies was Formula 2 with average energy 479 kilocalorie per 100 grams, and the protein is 11.70 grams per 100 grams, and the fat is 23.93, and the carbohydrate is about 54.31. Yeah, that's all my presentation. Is there any question you can chat in the system of MOOCs? Thank you.